Hello, everyone, and welcome back to some more beautiful action here in the silver division from the PFI tournament, as we're casting more of our potential future opponents here. As I'm once more joined by the lovely Chloride.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
I just
So far, Protos, if we're getting in with the cast, this is a long deployment, so we've skipped 3 minutes of it, but a lot of stuff has already been deployed. So, do you want to explain the PFI peak and ban system? Or are you going to do it later? Because there's
yeah,
a lot of stuff being sent to the board.
Yeah, there is a lot of stuff being deployed. We have 4 bands here, and they still, after 4 bands, didn't go with the meta divisions. Yeah, Bueno is not a bad deck. Second, Motos Chaleka, not a good deck, but not a terrible deck either. But quite low in the picking order, I would argue, for divisions that are not quite up there. So this is an interesting one, and it's also both divisions from the same nemesis. So 2 divisions that were set up to fight each other, and they are actually kind of decently similar in that regard as well. Both more heavily mechanized divisions that do have some older tanks in their ranks to do the work. And yeah, how do you like the setup so
Yeah.
far?
So you actually gifted the DLC back in the day, Protoss, and I would like to publicly thank you because these are two of my favorite divisions. I personally just dislike playing ranked with S tier divisions. I think it isn't as spiritually fulfilling as finding these, minor nations, niche, little bit more interesting unit combinations. And so first of all, Guzman El Bueno, the Spanish infantry division, has its special units are largely its ability to bring cows at 40 millimeters, and even the Milans getting transported by a Milan carrier. Their transports, the BMRs, are very fast, 85 kph off road. Actually, no, 90 kph off road, and they are armored, and they have decent amount of hit points as well for a 100-point unit. They have a pretty strong recon tab with the guerrilleros, the special forces recon units, not having any AT weapons, but they are specialized anti-infantry units, and overall just low machine guns, but big infantry squads, a lot of nice fundamentals, good support tabs, and good recon with the quite slow and weak supporting tank tab that can bring out a lot of firepower when concentrated. Whereas Chem Warrior is playing second Motostrelitska, which has a decent small infantry tab, a helicopter tab that we're seeing here with the herbs. Can only really bring out 2 cars of helicopters, but still can be quite crucial because helicopters can do a lot of damage in these city environments. They are the T-55, the hyper-modernized T-55 AM2 division. AM2s and the AM2Bs with their excellent Bastion missiles are absolutely superior tanks, but they are less effective being stacked to fulfill a fire support role, even though they're still very good at doing that as well. T-54Bs, the very cheap, obsolete tanks, obsolete models can also be brought out, which is probably a good choice against like a division like Guzman El Bueno. And infantry in the Czech side is not as strong, or recon isn't as strong as the Spanish units are smaller, but they have BMPs, BMP1 specifically, and the Zalesnitsi overall as a reservist squad. 10-man reservist squads can be very effective, and you get a lot of them per card, of course, because they're reservists. Now, the fighting line is already kind of moving in here in the middle with 2 T-55 AM2s, excellent fire control, excellent range, pretty decent armor as well with 14, going up against these recon tanks and DEC-25 recon vehicles. Now, Zapadores, which are engineer units, that even though the Zapadores M65s have a older generation AT launcher, SMGs are pretty strong these days in Warno, and with the shock trade, the engineers alone can excellently 1v1 most stuff that is coming out from the Czech side. Either the smaller ships recon special forces or the larger Salosnici reservist squads. And we're actually having a TOA PM120, a heavy commando mortar, as I call them, which is a single mortar that you open the game with so that you can immediately start manifesting stuff on the board, blocking lines of sight, and trying to create excellent engagements. Flying Ryan refusing to fight the tanks head on and is trying to move northeast. And Chem Warriors' forces are kind of in a bad situation. They need to be doing damage right now because the Spanish infantry is already pushing up into November, the back point.
Yeah, also everywhere some of these guy boy MG guns that the 20 millimeters that can fire both on 2 helicopters and also decent fire support on the ground. So they are pushing away the Me-Too URP, that little advantage that the second Strelica gets is completely denied there. But the T-55s here, they are being used pretty well so far, but M48s do show up to deal with the first one. The second T-55 AM2 has to get out, and yeah, both sides using recoilless rifles quite actively here, but both of the first one of Chem Warrior already down, the second one currently not involved in the engagements, as it's CSR 106, the M40 in the Spanish service, is trying to get some flanking shots there as well. And yeah, so far, great engagements here for Flying Ryan. Few units lost on their side, whilst in the north, the Guerilleros are really starting to set up the pressure here on Chem Warrior's point, and there are few units here for Chem Warrior that currently can assist that. The 82mm recoilless rifles, they are quite nice, and the Su-7 rocket plane here, coming in with the 6 massive 240mm rockets, they can annihilate infantry units quite quickly, so they get rid of one Zapadores. That's a nice little victory. Guerilleros there, but outside of the building, get shot down as well. So the north seems to be safe, but Chem Warrior has to be careful to not get overrun in the middle either, as the Zapadores finally push on into his town there as well.
Yeah, so Flying Ryan bought the M48 A5 E2 variants, which are the top variants of the patterns with the Spanish. Those things have way better penetration, but worse armor than the T55 AM2s. As the T55s pushed up to hunt the M47 recon tank, which only has heat ammunition and is very weak in tank fights, the M48s came out there as reinforcements, got a great engagement, and now Flying Ryan, using the Zapadores and M48s, is trying to move to the enemy side of the board, basically secure the reinforcement road so all of the incoming forces here can keep on.
Side shot for T-55 though, and the recoilless rifles helping out against the other M48. Both M48s do get popped here. Great engagement by Chem Warrior, waiting his time, getting the reinforcements in, and getting the double kill there on the tanks. Now has to Zanish the LPO there in the town, so the Zapadores, they are good at melee, but they're not good enough to just stand in face and face a flamethrower without any consequences. One of the T-55s does eat a Milan here, so it does go down in response again. So in the end, not a complete loss here for Flying Ryan so far, but the fight is still going on, as the SRN, the recon units here, the Mountaineer recon forces of the second Strelica are trying to get a bit better around, but currently are fired upon by a lot of vehicles. First one likely going to go down in the north, and the other one currently fighting the Spanish special forces, so that's not a great engagement here either. But there comes the Su-7. AA situation on the Spanish side is relatively bad. 2 IHawks are far in the rear, but they're not far enough up on the front to actually assist in stopping the Su-7 runs, and the Su-7s both get their kills, but both take a lot of damage, and one of them even does get shut down with the max range IHawk hit here right in the end.
Yeah, those Su-7s have 10 HP. I would have thought that basically being equivalent to MiG-21s, they would have 8 and be one-shot by the IHawks. But that did not happen. Now, Chem Warrior, in these close infantry fights, Chem Warrior has...
Su-22 Seed, not getting quite close enough to fire Seed missiles, otherwise the IHawk would have immediately died there as well. But yeah, Chem Warrior trying to hold the line, but Flying Ryan with more pressure up north now. A lot of infantry reinforcements have come into that spot.
Yeah, that is likely where Flying Ryan also just wants to keep fighting right now. Chem Warriors, what second Motostrzelecka has here as for its advantage is that it has a card of T72 M1s, considered to be kind of the good standard, not too expensive variant in a lot of pack nations. And there's also a leader card, so you can get out like some six tanks overall. And the T72s are technologically completely superior to the M48s, and especially in these defensive fights, they basically allow Chem Warrior to just get good engagements as long as the support units are around. There's also the SRN unit, which is a recon military police unit. I believe it's kind of like a border guard unit, and they are excellent with the Zalosnitsi because they can fulfill two of those supporting roles at the same time, as well as having great stealth because it's a recon infantry unit, and then also a 10-man squad, so it doesn't die immediately.
We see another interesting unit here from the Spanish. Their older L10D3 rocket launcher with 300mm rockets has a good range on those rockets, and those rockets now, since the buff, they deal actually quite some damage. They don't get all that much here, but the Sinistrid still does die to them. One more SU-7 here moving around. The third Eyehawk has arrived. The other two Eyehawks not reloaded yet, but the SU-7 does eat a lot of damage. SU-22 coming around. Oh, the SU-7 goes down to the Guy Boy. The Eyehawk does get killed by the SU-22, but the Guy Boy does get the kill there. Whilst up in the north, the infantry of Chem Warrior has all but melted away. So the Zapadores can get into the zone. The leader has arrived with them as well, and pushing Zapadores out of your towns is insanely tough, especially with a division that is decent in the infantry department, but not amazing. You get some of your own SMG squads, but it's still quite annoying to deal with all these Zapadores.
Yeah, Chem Warrior is using these 11-man Pohranitnitsi units, which are mountaineers, kind of border guard mountaineers, I believe, and they also get the military police trait, which is a nice little buff to surrounding units. But it's still it's a good unit, but you don't get too many of those cards. If you look at Flying Ryan's side, not only are there up-vetted Fusileros and up-vetted Zapadores here, which are getting the Zapadores Mando buff to get on elite level, the Fusileros BMR have an excellent, very fast-firing AT rocket launcher, which is great in these environments. Guy Boys in the background here are making it difficult to use helicopters, and there is a BMR TP lag, and this is the best fire support unit in the game, basically, like best infantry transport, maybe, just a very powerful and very fast HE damage that when you select these infantry units and you press C, you can see the line of sight and the slivers of potential attack angles. And the way to win with the Spanish here is that you just get the enemy into positions where your BMR PPs can move quickly and keep firing on long range, not getting close enough. And yeah, a second BMR PP lag is getting pulled here with the Fusileros. This is something that is very difficult when you don't have Metis launchers, when you don't have the range to really use Fagots here, or it's not really practical. And you also don't want to be buying too many tanks because the Fusileros BMR, the C90 launchers, are just really good at dealing with them. You can very quickly, relatively quickly move in these towns, just shift click or units, and they can do a lot of damage and a rout and maybe even a kill AT-55. Nevertheless, Chem Warrior is sending them out there, and Flying Ryan has not repaired the tanks. So the three patterns coming up here are all basically quite close to death. Now, OT-64 transports are getting an engagement against the Zapadores without the Fusileros supporting them, so this is going to be a free kill here, and also being way closer to Chem Warrior's spawn. Chem Warrior's reinforcements and supply are going to be a preference here. There is a lot of units for Flying Ryan that are not really participating in it, that are not projecting power in any way, especially looking at Lima, where they exist only to prevent a T-72 kind of push through all of this. And I think that even though these infantry divisions both of them can fight very widely, which is why they are nice infantry divisions and not very solid, strict armored divisions, Chem Warrior's defensive advantages might actually help just getting rid of all of this. And just straight up, just a failure in supply. The TOA is the MLRS and all of these vehicles. There just needs to be more supply here. And Flying Ryan maybe just a little bit too much, getting into the infantry attack in the mid game, and now Chem Warrior is going to be able to use the superior tank advantage.
But Chem Warrior, though, trying to use air here a bit too much, maybe. Losing another SU-22 napalm launcher plane here, instead of buying some more reinforcements for the ground, maybe buying some of their own artillery. 430 points down now, so needs to find a way to actually get over the middle of the map and into the enemy zones, and that is not going to be easy. As the T-52s here, 55s, just kind of settling idly around as well. And the planes on the side of Flying Ryan, all for the most part still around, do get a double kill here with the C-14 on the T-55 AM2s. That is massive, as now that northern zone is absolutely pushable again, as Zapdoris and M48s are already getting ready for another assault. So yeah, Flying Ryan does not need to push, but I feel like Flying Ryan can put up some more pressure up north right at this moment.
Yeah, those if those support weapons start participating in this fight, and now with the tanks all finally repaired, old BMR-PP lag is actually getting hit by the Poronitsnitsi, but Poronitsnitsi has to run off. Way too much firepower coming at their way. Yeah, those C-14s are French Mirage F1s, which are known for being maximum speed planes and being a maximum speed dive bomber. They can do a lot of damage into paired up tanks, especially, and they can likely get there before your AA has gotten the shot off, unless your AA is very close to the front line.
Yes, and we see more of these SU-7 rocket runs here trying to move around, but with the iHawks plus the Guy Boys, this is getting whittled away relatively quickly now, and they have not paid off that well so far. So the air neutralization here by Flying Ryan has really started to work out. Is setting up the next big rocket artillery shot here up north, as the L10D3 is reloading. Towards the south has basically become a Cold War frontline here. Both sides not really taking any engagements there as of late, as it seems to be all about the rear zone in the north for the moment.
Yeah, Flying Ryan keeping up a little tick here, just by the strength of the fire support, but now two C-14 clusters are waiting here to attack. They are actually targeting the infantry in the front line, encouraged by the lack of AA earlier. But Chem Warrior has bought a coup, and no, that coup isn't a move command. No, okay, it gets a shot off, and the shot misses. That is why you don't move coups with the move command.
Ooh, the other two coups, though, do get a kill against one of the clusters. Do nearly get a kill against the second one. The L10D3 is going for infantry here, not for the enemy AA. Might get the Vilitel Streltsy if those don't move out, and they have not moved out yet. So yeah, the 330mm rockets do get the kill here. Likely will wipe out the infantry there as well. Yes, they do. So this is soon to be a +2 here for Flying Ryan, as Chem Warrior is under pressure up there on the northern end of the map.
Yeah, Chem Warrior has the only fully functional infantry unit in that zone, though, the Zeniste LPO, which is also a flamethrower unit, which is quite practical in these ranges. But but really, it's just the problem here is Chem Warrior concentrating enough forces to actually destroy the enemy fire support. The enemy fire support will allow for continuous movement of like pretty strong infantry into the zone, as well as the peaking of the infantry leader units. And now heavy mortar is also opening fire on the zone, which is a good idea. Heavy mortars and heavy mortars especially do quite a bit of damage nowadays.
Yes, and they just gonna be annoying here over time. They especially also do good stress damage and keep the enemy from being able to recover stress over time. Well, it's down in the south. The Dana being counter-batteried here a good bit as well. Not being able to actively be used is quite annoying as well. The Eyehawks are turned off, so good micro there on the side of Flying Ryan. Not eating any of the seed missiles, whilst Chem Warrior is trying to get this air tap to work for the second napalm plane, but only now is capturing back the northern zone and will still have to find a way here to try to get the enemy his points here, and with all 3 central points here being directly on the half of Lion Ryan and the Papa zone being super deep, getting into points on Hesse always takes some really decisive action.
Yeah. Here we have a artillery buildup coming here for Flying Ryan, and especially just to hold the enemy on this zone. If Flying Ryan wants to play this very safely and very carefully, they will just keep up this bleeding ulcer, as one would say, of this battle alive to prevent resources of Chem Warrior from ever actually doing anything decisive, because decisive action is what's kind of required here. And but these infantry divisions, both of them can keep doing these kinds of fights, but the 600 points and lead for Flying Ryan is pretty serious. On Hesse, with these divisions, not a lot of decisive action going to happen unless Chem Warrior really just starts organizing well. There's also a Spanish Civil War gun, the Canon 122-45 Russo, which was probably given by the Soviet Union to the Republic in Spanish Civil War, until the Soviet Union, of course, betrayed the Republic and lost the Spanish Civil War for everybody.
Yeah, we have counter battery coming in on it, but it did already move a decent bit. So the counter battery here of the M46 artillery pieces, the more modern Soviet artillery howitzers here, though not by much. I believe they're pretty they're World War II howitzers as well. They do miss their target there, as the seaplane desperately tried to find some more Eyehawks here. We shot at, but Blind Ryan really keeps the trigger under control here. No trigger happy Eyehawks just firing away to eat some seed missiles in return. As the rocket artillery is coming in for the counter battery, and they are getting on the T-813s, and they get both artillery pieces here. So yeah, rocket artillery really a good bit better than it had been in previous patches, and can do nasty stuff like this right now here.
All right, so Flying Ryan is now sending in an infantry attack up north, and also sending oh no, but I think maybe a little bit of a misplay by pushing too far in with the BMR PPs. The PPs are supposed to be kept outside enemy infantry weapons range, because they have such great range and can do and quickly move to adopt new positions. Oh, but this napalm bomber gets in here, destroys 2 of the assault squads, but does not rout the Zapadores Mando, who is now, oh no, follows up the BMR PP lag, which is expertly destroyed by the Streltsy unit. This is a loss of fire support that Flying Ryan really doesn't want to happen, considering there's also now an infantry push happening further southwest, with the Chem Warriors forces kind of trying to start securing this staging area, finally finish this. And even the Zalosnitsi are capable of dealing with these fire support units when they get way too close.
Yes, and the Streltsy here getting around. We see a massive kill feed here for Chem Warrior, a lot of blue units biting the dust there in really, really quick succession. So really nice for our player in red there. Finally starting to get the kills. Finally having the enemy on the rope in the north, as there is not a single infantry unit inside. New reinforcement wave here moving in for Flying Ryan, but the situation starts to become a bit fragile in the north. In the center, still holding out nicely if the M48 has traded quite well there. The smoke mortars have helped out, for example, quite significantly. Whilst we see some more planes here, some more seaplanes flying around in the rear. The Dana trying to get active as artillery, but the counter battery of Flying Ryan against the howitzers, that really was a big one here, allowing the Flying Ryan's artillery to fire quite freely and also just hindering the ones of the enemy here so well. Cluster Bomber does come in nicely. Seaplane does get an Eye-Hawk. Does not get another kill, but another Eye-Hawk is a nice pickup here for Chem Warrior, as the C-14 does get onto the battlefield and does get the kill onto the Su-22, as Coops desperately trying to re-engage, failing to do so.
Yeah, the Dana counter battery seems to be working here. I believe it was the Dana that killed the Eye-Hawk as well. And with Flying Ryan buying so many units at the same time here, I feel like there was probably a little bit of floating happening, and more responsible continuous buying of reinforcements wouldn't have left these gaps, lack of infantry units, as you said. But Chem Warrior is not pushing that way, and Chem Warrior is concentrating on diffusing this attack coming over the railway hill. So this is buying Flying Ryan some time to reinforce the strong points here. But yeah, once again here, fire support getting just a little bit too close for comfort. And with the T-72 holding the long range here, there is a Milan too, interestingly, trying to move up there to impose fire control. But it has been spotted by the RT ships, Special Forces Recon, and T-72 is probably gonna, I mean, it's going to be able, oh no, the T-72 is not paying attention. It is opening up its side armor for the enemy, and it's going to take some time for it to, it's not going to get caught here, but it does really want to be front to southwest so it can smoke out any kind of an attack that's happening.
Yeah, but there is a lot of infantry now in the forest here as well. The smoke keeps on dropping, so maybe Chem Warrior not quite able to get the right decisions going just yet, as we have more AA moving around, more fighters in the sky, and on the other side we have a couple more Chelseas, but no more mechanized forces here. A good amount of infantry moving in the north for Chem Warrior, but the rest of the forces here are relatively insignificant. C-14A cluster getting out, and yeah, in general, a situation that is not really great for either side, but at least one already has some points here, 617, and that would be enough to win the game enough in the end if the other side here does not get into any pushes.
Yeah, the Zalosnici are coming in at these OT-62B transports, which are have the Tarasnitsi recoilless rifles, interestingly enough, and they are way cheaper than the BMR PP lags, which are 40 points. These are only 25 points, but they are being used very well to engage the Zapadoras at optimum ranges here. And Flying Ryan's infantry counter push here immediately took bad engagements and is probably not paying as much attention there either. But yeah, right now Zapadores Mondo is getting back in, is getting into the middle finally. But the T-72 is protected by the smoke wall. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, but the good smoke play here by Flying Ryan, just being annoying, getting the points, keeping the tick up, that is all quite nice. Fusileros do bite the dust. The T-72 trying to find more of them, as we do have a couple of tanks in the rear. No airplay or so whatsoever either. As the bomb does not deal all too much damage, it does have napalm, so it does burn quite well, but doesn't really do the burst damage that you would want against any armored target. The Malyutka HGMs here quite helpful. Pretty slow, but also quite affordable. And yeah, the situation here is not getting any better for either side at the moment, it feels like.
Yeah, I think
As
the Dana counter battery's best success is shown in the fact that the Flying Ryan is just not using their artillery as much. The artillery is just not firing, the mortars are not firing, and that is probably because, well, you don't want to invest. If the enemy is doing automatic counter battery, you need the micro against that, and you don't really have the micro capacity right now. But even then, it does seem like Flying Ryan is likely going to get this. The potential for like a one final showdown where Chem Warrior could have gotten the technological upper hand with the D-72s and then actually pushed through. There was a moment there, especially up in the north, where, as you said, Chem Warrior had complete supremacy, but just not enough supporting units, not enough time or attention to get to do anything about that. Now, speaking of time and attention, in the southwest there is a pretty sizable force trying to move into X-ray, but even if they can get there, unless Echo is also held, Chem Warrior needs to move quickly and also win the middle fight to catch this 700-point lead, I think.
yeah, and he just does not have the forces here right now to really do that. T-72 M1 pushing forward, another T-55, AM2K3 trying to assist there, trying to get the point back, but the situation is that Red, whenever they try to push, did start to lose and bleed units quite quickly as well. T-55, AM2B sitting up north. We have some recallers rifles getting involved into those fights there now as well. Yeah, the Mountaineer forces there getting slowly pushed out there now, and the tick is still going for blue. That's already a big issue here, and they have enough defensive units here with the Santana Milan and the Milan 2 to stop the enemy. Well, it's just outside of that, going off more reinforcements here, going off more infantry is quite helpful for both sides, but the game is not going for super much longer. So you really would want to stop the tick here so that you can finally start slowly catching up, then maybe get a capture elsewhere next to the +2 that you could potentially get south as red side, and then you maybe could still swing this game around, but the slots are all pretty far out of reach right now, and yep, both sides not really with the best recon usage in this game, and now the T-72 M1 goes down, and that is just kind of a death sentence here for the chances of Chem Warrior.
Yeah, it was just Flying Ryan just successfully took a little bit of aggression early on when the enemy was concentrated in a different part of the map, and then kept just a decent enough presence in that area that I kept taking decent enough engagements to finally just get this numerical advantage that we can see if we zoom out a little bit. At this point, like artillery, when you start having so many units on board that it just becomes this like mass of different mortars and artillery pieces and coups and planes, and with relatively small numbers of infantry units trying to move house to house, everything becomes so slow. Every single breakthrough can be countered by a concentration of something, whether it be the MLRS or whether it be a napalm bomber. Not that the napalm bombers are really have been doing that, cluster bombers more like. And in this Chem Warrior would have had to be playing with a different, more aggressive mindset to counter this successfully, so as to not get into this very, very late stage where these two quite defensive divisions that focus a lot on these combined arms and support weaponry have both gotten themselves into the full defense mode, and second Motostrzelecka just doesn't have enough concentrated mech to break through anything, really.
Yeah, T-55's here, moving around, M48 trying to push forward. I'm sorry, guys, my circulatory system is completely shutting down here right now on my end. I have no idea it just wants to go into rest mode. I'm kind of falling into second sleep here in front of my PC from second to second, even though I'm not that sleepy. Like, I did sleep well the last night, but like my camera is starting to move because I've just like napping away for 3 seconds, and then I wake up again, and then I see the screen again, and hear Chloride's
Oh, no.
soothing voice here on the other end. So yeah, sorry for the
Is that why
weird
you-
camera movement.
Is that why you've been giving me so much airtime?
It's part of it, but yeah, T55s here moving forward. I've tried to follow the conversation, but it's just like yeah, I don't know. My circulatory system sometimes does that, and today is one of those days, it seems. So I hope it maybe gets back for game number 2. Otherwise, we might have to stop after that. But yeah, lag here under fire. It's all fine. I mean, it's not bad for me. It's just annoying for you guys. I'm not having a bad time here.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm yeah, not having the best cast for you guys. And yeah, with the blue side here pushing on. Yeah, Convoy just not quite able to stem the tide there at any point in the game. Blind Ryan always finding a new small opening, new small little engagement. It was just that a slight bit better, and that got them through there. So yeah, GGVP here. Blind Ryan getting the W. I will do a couple of jumping jacks, guys. Let's see if that's get back up. Yeah, my body just does not like me sitting in front of the PC all day. I already used the standing desk here, but that did not really fix it. Just did it in standing mode at that moment. So I will need a 3-4 minute break. Then we'll see if it's better in the next game. Otherwise, I might just have to stop it here for today. So usually it gets better. So yeah, we'll get myself some water, and we will be back here for game number 2 so that we can do that justice here in 5 minutes, guys. So here we return, game number 2. I did some jumping jacks to get myself going, and I think it worked. Like, yeah, a couple of push-ups, drinking some water. I believe I'm back. So let's see if Line Ryan and Cam Warrior are fully back here as well. An interesting little matchup as well. Two of the divisions that I have played quite a lot over the last 2 years. On the left side, 16th Panzer of the Belgians moving around with their Gepards, with their Lear 1s, and a good bit of mechanized infantry. On the right side, we have the Polish 15th Smack, as that one is a division that got buffed quite a bit lately. And now spam even a bit better in the air, but also now has a couple better ground forces going for them as well. Formosa, one of the units that profited from a bit of a buff, next to having submachine guns as well. So this should be interesting. And yeah,
Yeah, this is the Protoss. The past game was the Chloride division match. This is the Protoss division match. I have limited experience with 15 Schmeck or the 16th Panzer Division, but how would you rate just how would you rate the 15 Schmeck's tank spam capabilities overall? Because on this map, tanks tend to be quite relevant, but largely like faster, longer range tanks that can peek out enemies instead of holding these like very tightly confined lines where the T-55s would be more relevant. Do they get any of the Merida
they don't
upgrades?
they don't really get to fight over those. They get one card, yes, I believe, but that's not really what 15th CMAC is here for. You're here for fighting through the north of Charlie into Delta, or going around and getting Alpha and striking around Alpha with as many air forces as possible. The good thing for Cam Warrior on this map is Gepards cannot be everywhere. They cannot cover the whole front line. Usually what you have on this map, when you ran into it on ranked with CMAC, is that there's just a couple of Coops and a couple of Ihawks, and you are kind of out of it. Gepards can't quite cover the front line like that. So what you kind of need to do is just stretch the enemy thin with your forces, with your quick light forces, and put your good infantry into the spots where infantry is great. That is mainly around Charlie, the forest north of Charlie, the town uh, to the left side of Charlie, and Charlie itself. And then you can fight a bit with infantry in Bravo, and you can fight into Alpha with infantry Ds and light mech forces as well. But the open fields between Bravo and Charlie and south of Bravo, that's territory that in this engagement you just kind of want to ignore, in my eyes.
Yeah, the Flying Ryan is doing a forward deployment infantry attack kind of all across the board, but significantly less forces being sent to Bravo. And this might, if the ESR GBP Special Forces and the Luxembourgian Space Marines, the Fusiliers, want to, they could probably start doing some level of pushing up in Echo, but it's all going to depend on how much micro capacity Flying Ryan is going to have to push that. The Formosa, which is named, the military force is named after the island of Formosa. I couldn't believe it when I read it, but yes, they are riding the vehicle that Joker in the Batman animated series uses to rob a bank, the BAW 485, and they also have an Igla, satchel charge, AT weapon, Igla, and SMGs.
Where the
Only
Commandossi coming in here in the Mi-8, helping out, dealing with some Humvee toes here early. One of the Formosa trucks getting here into the fights in the north. The other ones are set up in these positions as well. Flying Ryan will win the Bravo fight, but there is a way here for Cam Warrior to just kind of dominate potentially right into Delta there in the north. The Gepards now arrive, and yeah, that's the issue with the Mi-8s. You kind of want to get them out of there. Issue with the Mi-8 is also that the 57mm rocket is way overpriced for its damage, so reloading them is kind of not worth it at all, unless you have endless supplies, which you usually don't. Mirage 5E cluster here does get around, stops the Scots from just running deep, but there's a lot of these cheap T-55s running around, and yeah, they're getting exactly in there where you are. And yeah, somebody in chat told us that there are no Meridas in 15th. I really don't know because I never used the tank tab all that much. Like, yeah, I know that there are short range tanks in there. You use them to just put some pressure sometimes somewhere and some fire support for your infantry, but it's really the afterthought of the division for the most part.
Yeah, it's the like at this point the Leopard ones, if they are cheap enough that they can be gotten out there with numbers, and if you get a full-on blob of them, the fire support capability, just suppressing an infantry unit with one salvo is going to be very powerful. But it's going to take some time, and currently Chem Warrior is kind of bypassing a lot of enemy forces here and just trying to get solidly into Echo. This is a very, very bad air situation or air matchup for the Belgians. The Belgians, as you said, don't have any long-range air defenses. They have to rely on heat seeker F-16 fighters, which already are not that great.
Oh, and the Gepards under fire, the T-55 use. Do they get the shots out? Do they get the kill? They get a hit, but they don't get the kills yet. Oh, that is unfortunate. Leopard 1 having to disengage. The Gepards are still alive here. T-55U's not getting the kills here. Got the Mac moving around everywhere as the Leo 1 is trying to get out of a tough place there. The reservist T-55U's, if they take any stress damage, they fall to pieces quite quickly, but you can take them with one vet. And as long as they don't get hit, they do well. Formosas do bring an Eagle around, so the A109 is not the counter there. And yeah, this northern engagement here really interesting for Camp Warrior, but Camp Warrior at the same time just desperately has to find a way to keep Echo safe here. So 2 tough spots for both sides. One of the Gepards finally does bite the dust, as the Alouette does get shut down as well. A109 trying to find a new angle for attack, but the Formosas keep on pushing forward. Got the ZMAC pushing forward as well against the Fusiliers. Getting the Iltis will get the infantry out of the town as well. So really, really intense push here by Camp Warrior. Kinda overstretching, but at the same time, the enemy is just nearly as overstretched on the other side as well.
Yeah, Flying Ryan is finally moving up the infantry to push for Echo, and there are recon units that can spot this, but not yet. And this is probably, I mean, Chem Warrior is yet to capture Echo, so that probably puts in a lot of incentive for Flying Ryan to start testing this area. There is a Reservitsi SVD unit, but that is actually going way off-road to do anything about this infantry push if it's ever going to happen. Mirage cluster goes down, gets the bombs off, and as you said, now the 2 reservist tanks are put down to low cohesion. One of them is lost. So immediately 4 leopards coming out there, one of them getting shot by the PPK Fagot, but does not lose its entire life. Pretty close to the base, can probably get some supply fast. Formosa have used all of their ammunition already, so the TOW-2 carrying helicopter is actually getting some shots off here.
Yeah.
But once again, even more reinforcements are coming in here. 2 AA units and a Strela, and even another OSA, like a lot of just infantry grind units wanting to deal with the very relatively powerful Mirage bombers, the heavy bomb loads that are going to be targeting any of the enemy, any of this infantry concentration that Chem Warrior wants to use to push forward here. And the weapons to deal with the Leopards are going to be a little bit more difficult. BMP-1s can do damage to Leopard 1s and in both ways, but that's suboptimal. The Conqueror's missiles are excellent, but they can be on these ranges. The Leopards can get them.
Do the M113 does get the kill before? No, the Fagot does get the kill against the radar unit there beforehand, but the Formosa do go down. 1 BRDM does go down on the south as well. We have another Su-7 rockets. It's basically a stats clone of the other Su-7 rocket that we saw with the second Czech division just in the last game, as the Su-7 here also carries those 6 240mm rockets, which just annihilate any recon or infantry unit. And they found a good victim there. The RGVP, really valuable target. As the Sultan is trying to go for the rear zone here. SU7 still staying in the top of all of this. We see the Fagot launcher getting an all-side shot here against the Leopard 1 BE again. Does get another good hit. T-55U trying to go for the killing blow. Does not quite find the angle to do so though. As, yeah, both sides here investing more into the north. The southern part is getting captured by Flying Ryan now though. Flying Ryan contesting the zone there and does get the tick back with that F-16. Is it getting the kill? Yes, it is. With the gun in the end. Vulcan gun finishing off the SU-7. Getting out alive here. So situation is back under control in the skies for Flying Ryan. But that northern force of Cam Warrior does look relatively scary. Especially considering that there's only one damaged Gepard left here as air defense as well. And there's a lot of AA below this, so F-16s in the north won't have a good time at all.
Yeah, and just to remind people, not all F-16s are made equal. The Belgian F-16s are F-16As, and they have very low-tech heat-seeker missiles. So they have lower range, lower accuracy, lower ECM as well than other F-16s, and thus having to go against a division that has an Su-27, every single air victory is massive for Flying Ryan. Like the late stage of like if you remove the bomber capacity, the Mirage bombers that we're already seeing, if Cam Warrior can get rid of those, the damage is going to have to be done by Leopard 1's AIFVs, which are low armored but do have a good 4 penetration autocannon and artillery. And I feel like that's just not gonna be enough. The Air Force is required to counter this sort of stacking, spamming sort of fighting.
And at the same time, Milan 1 though, firing ATGMs on the CV in the south, does miss the second time already. And finally, Cam Warrior realizing what's going on there, is pushing in for the rear zone of the opponent in the north, getting a Leopard there that got a bit too close to all the Polish forces. As the Mirage cluster moves along, is getting its bombs dropped off, and is not being hit in return. The second Mirage not able to get any shots off, but the OSA's there in a bit of a weird forest where their line of sight was a bit terrible. So not able to shoot the Mirages out of the sky. Now disengaging there, trying to find a better angle. Though force back the second Mirage here, but once more, only 2 missiles from one of the OSAs going out. None of the other AA units here firing a single shot. The line of sight here, the angle's just not good for Cam Warrior's AA. His Su-27 did not participate either, so really missing out there on killing the Mirages off. As a T-55 AM2B does arrive, so yeah, that's what you get. You don't get Meridas, you get the German ones, right? So that's your long-range tanks. It was like, yeah, you get somewhat nice T-55s. Basically equivalent to the Merida. They get slightly worse stats, but they get Resolute. And at the same time, BMP-1 here trying to deal with the Leo 1, but the Humvee TOW 2 gets T-55. BMP-1 does go down as well. The Sultan at least does die in the south now. We do see an Su-22 seed plane not getting the Gepard there. Gepard still turned on. And the Mistral did find it against the Su-22, so it is pushed out without getting anything further done. And yeah, the Air Force here of Cam Warrior, not as rampant, not as efficient as I would have liked them to be here. And that Flying Ryan is getting back here. Has the better trades lately on the ground for the most part, but does lose some Leopards and mechanized infantry here lately as well. Formosa does run out of RPG 18s before it can get the kill here against the enemy Leopard 1s. And nothing else here right now around to assist. But the situation here for Flying Ryan has to be careful with the Leo 1s. You cannot just suicide them in there. But gets the Formosas and might be able to maybe even do a bit of flanking here. The Humvee TOW is trying to rotate around in the south as well. Does not get killed by the Conquerors. Yeah, situation here is a tense one as Flying Ryan's massive forces in the south arriving, and there comes the Mirage 5BA cluster onto the battlefield again, and yeah, not being able to get rid of that is really bad for Chem Warrior, as this could maybe even just go for the Osas at this point.
Yeah, the movement of the Leopard ones here, I feel like this just trying to push through and flank the enemy, it could pay off very well, but I feel like this could also just be Flying Ryan wasting a lot of units in like 1 or 2 bad engagements, and then the middle losing the fire support advantage that is defending Delta, which is already like pretty weak.
When the layouts just go through, they don't have any recon going for them, but they find the CV. They might find the Mi-8 here as well. Mi-8 completely without rockets, and at the same time, Chem Warrior not getting anything done in the south. The northern forces of Chem Warrior here not really in the position to push on either at the moment, and that layer 1 push is absolutely ballsy, likely a bit suicidal, but is working out just fine here for Flying Ryan. Does cost the enemy a lot of resources, and even a Mi-8 TB might not even have that much of a good time trying to finish that off. SU-27s just keep on circling above Mistrals here. Once more eating one and being pushed back by it, having to retreat back to the base. So this situation here currently for Chem Warrior is not a super pleasant one, as the infantry in the north trying to push up again. The reservoir still there, the 12-man squads trying to get close, but the AFV, that's where you want the T-55Us to come around to deal with those IVs of the Belgians, the kind of mix of an APC and an IFV. It's basically an APC with a big turret on top because it does not give all that much protection. But there's nothing there to deal with that, and there we see a GG. Maybe a bit early here, as we see Chem Warrior being ahead in the kills, but surrendering to Flying Ryan because of the positioning situation here. And as I said, a bit early here, was ahead in kills, so that was mainly bound in air units here. Like the difference is less than a plane, and Chem Warrior had more planes here at this point, so on the ground, Flying Ryan was ahead. But you could have maybe pushed it around to a victory here, but Chem Warrior does surrender, and with that, Flying Ryan is winning this one 2-0.
Yeah, the slow creeping infantry attack into the back zone in southeast. That's the one that ended up winning it. They just over concentrate. Everybody should remember the law of Warno dynamics, which is that every unit concentration has its relative and relative unit diffusion. So if you see your enemy, for instance, buying a lot of OSAs, like surprising number of OSAs right in the opener, and you start seeing that, you get a pretty good reading of how much they have invested, especially early on, in such a short time. And being able to read that sort of stuff, being able to read the fact that the ESR GVP unit that was leading the attack was targeted by an enemy airplane. Like, you don't really send a helicopter or an airplane to do that kind of an attack if you have any kind of mechanized unit, any kind of unit at all that can deal like 1,200 meter HE damage. Like, and that's the kind of signal. I don't know if Flying Ryan read into that, but those are the kinds of signals that the enemy has a soft underbelly that can and should be struck. And being a little bit late in reinforcing and defending that zone, buying reinforcements, but just not sending them into the zone, but instead to the areas flanking the zone, was probably like a very consequential and very, very small mistake that allowed for this confidence for Flying Ryan that they can actually just get into that zone and the enemy and have a relative kind of tempo advantage there. And because if the enemy doesn't have the basics out there, if I have the basics, I can just like keep killing them, and I can just keep forcing them to focus more in this area. And as we saw with our God Vision, the infantry advantage up northwest was completely with the Polish, but a lot of the infantry had been given a move command to start moving over this area, and with their 500 meter AT weapons, they had stopped on the open to support and to fire at an infantry unit that was in cover and also losing. And meanwhile, the AIFVs could fire on long distances and just completely suppress and lock down that whole large group of infantry. And I think when you get into that kind of an engagement, when your mistake is like so obvious, and when you have the enemy tanks already in your back line, and you don't know, like it was unfortunate we couldn't see the best livery in any of packed helicopters. The recon helicopters and the Mi-8TB could have easily just dealt with all of that, and we saw that there were no like Gepards coming in to support this, and enemy airplanes would have had to fly over all the OSAs. But in the moment when you get the triple hit of losing the infantry fight, having the enemy tanks cover your reinforcement road, and then also having the enemy just once again get into the back zone that you need to be microing against, because you need to micro more in the area where you have less units generally if fight is happening. And yeah, I think that triple hit to the morale, to the cohesion of Ken Warrior as a player, Raldaden and like you said, that led to a little bit of an early GG. And I have also like looked at games myself in this league or in PFI, and just figured like, wow, that was really early loss. But in the moment, it kind of releases you from a lot of stress, especially if it's the first game. Unfortunately, this was the second game.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So GVP here to Flying Ryan getting the W. That brings us to the next series. So quick break, guys, and then we're going back with another one. And here we go. Series number 2 of the day. And we are here with Erwin von Wolfenstein and Kino 1981. Even ahead of the Warno timeline here with that name. And we do have an interesting pick and ban where both Second Pencil Grenadier and Mnet do survive the pick and ban phase. So that's hot. As the bands here at the beginning were Warno first, Austria, absolutely fine. On the other side, 79th and 5th Panzer. So to leave a strategic gap into Second Panzer Grenadier without having to fight its bigger brother right at the get-go. And yeah, that leads us to a pretty meta division. That here, on the right side though, a division that desperately needs buffs. If you watched my latest game on it, that division desperately needs to be completely reworked and buffed everywhere, basically. Just not a good division anymore, anyways. On the left side, yeah, Second Panzer a division that some people have said is shit now as well. Well, let's see which one of these truly for sure shit division now is the better one and can actually find it out here in the division of the now D-tier divisions.
Oh
yeah.
no. Oh no, the MNAT is a counter pick to Second Panzergrenadier. I did that as well. I lost the game where I counter picked Second Panzergrenadier with MNAT. And I just immediately, when I started playing the game, I was like, what was I doing? I was so stupid. How could I do that? And even on Black Forest,
well, what map exactly? That's what I was thinking. What map were you playing on it?
Ica. I was playing Ica. But and on Ica there was a little bit of a logic there, but on Black Forest guarantees long games most of the time. So you're guaranteeing that the enemy's scaling advantage, the mechanized advantage given the Second Panzergrenadier, is going to be more relevant than on a map like Hesse.
But on the other side, having an early tick on this map is really powerful as well. And you can kind of guarantee that early tick with MNAT. And you have a lot of room to be annoying in on this map as well, in my experience with this. You just have to figure out a way of how to contest Foxtrot, and then the rest of the map you can just be really annoying, even against the Second Panzer Grenadier in the early stages. Like, their forward deployment is there, but you can run that over quite easily if the enemy is not careful. And what we have behind that, a lot of M48s here from... Like, the opener here is interesting from Erwin. The M48s, they are decent fire support, but if they get caught up in a field where the enemy has decent HGM vehicles, like, for example, the LSV Milan, then all these M48s could just blow up in quick succession, and then you might be looking at a field of rubble. So, really interesting opener here. I like Kino's start in general. You have an F-16A here in disguise immediately with the AIM-9 piece from Irvin. That's an interesting start as well, as Irvin even trying to contest Charlie here to some degree with a lot of 7.6 meter MGs and a scimitar. So that is an interesting choice as well. Usually against MNet, you kind of just let that drop and focus on Foxtrot and Alpha on the left side as a mechanized division, but Irvin wants to fight on all fronts at the same time. So yeah, if you get caught out in the opener and then you maybe get slowed down a bit, then Mnet can fall into pieces here quite quickly. But if you can get the momentum out of the early take, just deep enough into the game and just throw enough ATGMs on the problem for long enough, then I feel like you still have a really good shot here. And the 50 cal LSVs here do start out decently well, stopping the enemy here in front of their buildings as units move into the south here as well. Bringing out more forces. Should be winning the fights in the north as well, as the first LSV truck does fall to the enemy forces here, though.
Yeah, the LSV is having the fastest deployment here to basically just contest this whole thing. But the Fallschirmjäger MG opener is interesting. I wouldn't personally maybe use those units in ranked, but in certain matchups, being able to forward deploy a defensive line for pretty cheap and very fast absolutely has its place. I'm not sure what to think about using them as offensive units in Charlie, where I just feel like they they don't have the mobility or the power to really move anything, so they're just going to hang around there. Would be more understanding if there was a single infantry unit that they were supporting, but at least they're going to hold the enemy there for a second. And the Fallschirm machine gunners are now basically making it so that any early infantry assault or infantry
good usage here of the
F-16.
F-16. It does not really get a good hit though. LSV Milan being strafed by the F-16A. Good usage of the Vulcan ammo when you already have it around. Does not get the kill though, and now the LSV is going after the M48s. M48s all rotating away this time around. It does not get the kill either, but the LSV Milan might have to run away here. Though the LMLs with the Javelins do get the kill here against the F-16A. That's a nice little kill there. Paras holding the front line as well. More forces, more ATGMs moving around. Unimox with the Milan launcher getting around as well. Scimitars forced to smoke off as the southern CV of Irvin got stopped. Kino is rotating the CV in there, trying to get the +2, and then there's the question, for how long can you keep a +2 up here? If you can get to 1,000, 1,500 points here as MNET on this map, then you can start to really put up some pressure onto the enemy. Good kill on the first M48. The LSV Milan now empty, but there are still more ATGMs around, and the Paras with the low 80s cannot be pushed over by medium tanks either.
Yeah, the Paras realizing that the enemy is not bringing up shock infantry, but instead vehicles. The Paras are in excellent locations, just refusing to participate in bad engagements, and now the M48s are just kind of hanging there. At least a sniper sharpshooter is getting some shots off here, but Kino is now on +2, and Irvin's counterattack or attack in the middle, the counter to the expected infantry assault, is not really working out. It kind of requires the participation of the enemy. And now with these very typical but still very powerful ATGM locations, Paramilan 1, Fallschirm Paramilan 2, the tanks are kind of constantly under threat. Kino is sending an LSV recon vehicle to cut off the reinforcement line of Alpha, really just to find out whether there's something there. And it's going to likely fall victim to something if it doesn't move. But the LSVs are so incredibly fast, they can be right-clicked, and even through forest, they can move there faster than any units that could realistically be following them. Now, infantry fighting happening here with the Fallschirm MGs, which I really do think the Fallschirm MGs are just out there to have the enemy infantry start fights so that the M48s can join in those fights. But the
amount of ATGMs is just kind of overwhelming there, but not that much damage dealt by them this time around. The MGs also doing pretty well here in the fights, though, against the enemy infantry. Like, the Paras on these ranges, they just can't keep up. That's where the MG do have their best engagements on these ranges, just slightly above or slightly below their maximum range. We do see the Buccaneer bombers getting around, doing a decent amount of kills, but one of them does get shut down. The second one does get heavily damaged. As at the other side, 2 of the 155mm howitzers arriving on the front line as well. Both sides having pretty good artillery. Those 155mm howitzers, quite nice. On the other side, we have the British 105mm howitzers, which are the best 105mm howitzers due to their extra range. And yeah, it does look like Kino for now can hold the line, up 300 points already here, and is picking off M48s. Irvin does not have supply on the front line to repair those, and does not really have the infantry to put a foot into Bravo here either, but Foxtrot is only barely held here, or barely covered by Irvin. If Kino would get a mechanized force of the autocannon and AA and ATGM vehicles in the south that MNET can muster really quickly, then Echo even could be under threat here.
Yeah, this is I hate to say this, but because Irvin von Wolfenstein is one of my viewers and a nice guy, but MNAD really was gifted the perfect strategy to play against, slow, low range fire support tanks concentrating right in the middle, and very little infantry aggression to pull away or barely any infantry aggro to pull away the MNAS resources, so they don't have to start rebuying infantry. Instead, they can just keep getting more and more of their very powerful, high-tech, even mobile, in the case of the vehicles, the weasels, like ATGMs. They're given this wide front line that they can use to engage the enemy with, and the enemy cannot do anything without exposing itself to these ATGMs. But Irvin is up to the task. A transition into artillery, 2 Feldhaubitze, 155 millimeters, a little bit overkill to kill a single infantry team with these, but it's good to have the overkill here, especially because MNAD also brings out pretty powerful artillery, and that artillery is lower caliber, so these are superior calibers, which will be able to do better counter battery if MNAD is going to buy artillery. Also, Leopard 1A5s and Martyrs bringing out the next stage of this mech force here. Leopard 1A5,
Kino, in my eyes, is just missing out here. Like, he's running into these 7.6 millimeter MGs and it's just dying to him. The reason for that is, where are the autocannon vehicles? Where are the scimitars? Where are the weasels? Like, that's the reason why MNET is better than other airborne divisions. Airborne divisions currently have the issue that infantry on the medium range, like even good infantry, like the ones that MNET gets, just don't perform cost efficiently. They are good in CQC, they are good on the defense in ambush positions, but against 7.6mm MGs, which basically cost nothing, like even before deployment extra price, they're only costing 20 points, you throw in a para that costs 40, 50 points, and they lose. So the enemy gets a 2-to-1 trade, or even better, basically, because they don't even lose their 7.6mm MGs. But those 7.6mm MGs get melted away by a 20mm autocannon, if you have them. But that was not around, and so now Irvin got an elimination on all these paras that tried to push his 7.6mm MGs without any fire support, and can now push in with a Panzer Commander here because all the units that Kino had here kind of suicided into him. And yeah, that's basically MNET's strength not being used here, in my eyes, by Kino in the middle. He is using its mobility on the flanks, but in the center, he's not using its strengths at all. And in the south, as I said, I believe one of those mechanized blobs of autocannons and TOW2 weasels could just completely make this life hell for Irvin as well. And this is not the case. It is being played as a normal infantry division, and that's not where the MNET division actually excels at. The infantry is nice, especially the Gurkhas, but those are especially nice in forests. And the rest here is just not being used well in my eyes.
Yeah, and also the Fernspur sharpshooter, the special forces sniper, actually destroyed 2 whole infantry squads because Kino wasn't paying attention and didn't see that this was happening. And the snipers, of course, get an extra level of stealth, and they did not reveal themselves to the enemy while they were firing the sniper rifle. Leopard 1 now going up against the Paracommando's god-awful 11 penetration 80 launcher.
The LSV can actually fire upon them from the rear with the 50 cal Leo 1 rear armor. Too bad, only 3 rear armor, so it can be penetrated. And as the Leopard 1 is routed, the 50 cal actually will pick it off here. You don't see that every day, but the LSV 50 cal here getting the kill, and it will get the killing against the Zwilling in transport as well. So that LSV here really being an MVP. I'm not sure if I ever saw an LSV with a 50 cal kill a tank, but yeah, there's a first for everything, and that really makes the life a good bit easier in the town for Kino, but still not an easy one as the Panzer Grenadiers have arrived and more pioneers are moving in as well. The northern situation, the 7.6mm MGs helping really well there with the infantry as well, because yeah, there is not a single autocannon vehicle on the battlefield. There are a couple of Weasel TOWs at least now for the long rangers, but you really ought to mix them in with the autocannon units, and that is not the case just yet.
Yeah, the Unimog Paras, the Paramogs, of course, are very effective with both 50 cals and a Milan launcher for only 35 points. The Paracommando unit is kind of mediocre, but its transport is top tier. But it has not successfully, like the Paramogs, haven't really been doing the work that one would expect a lightly armored autocannon force to do.
Yeah, HGMs here getting around. finding the shots, finding another M48s. The M48 usage here so far, not that great. Maybe Erwin predicted enemy autocannon vehicles, and that's why the mass M48s are around here. But yeah, it's just mainly ATGM units, so they are actually not that effective in that regard. Kino by now at 750 points, does kill one more of these M48s, but loses the Sultan and loses the infantry push that occupied Alpha here. So Alpha can be retaken by Irvin, and at the same time, more units necessary in the north here as well. Panzer Grenadier up there, without any martyrs, so they will not be able to push into the situation as well, especially as the Unimogs are being used as decent fire support by Kino there as well. But Kino needs to get back Bravo, stop the enemy from getting a take. Does get another M48 killed here with the ATGMs. And the infantry of MNet is winning the fights here. At the same time, artillery aiming for the Fallschirmjäger Führer here already. And might get the kill there. Slightly off target, seems to be.
Yeah, the Fernspur sniper is just doing amazing work. It's has almost destroyed a para unit already, down to 1 health, and the artillery firing at long range, I believe, right.
Ooh, para not quite in range of the Sultan yet, as the Unimog para does get the kill against the Speerscharfschützen finally. And the Paras with the low 80s will get rid of the Sultan here as well. 7.6mm MGs will open up fire on it in a second here again, as we have a F4F HE in the south. A Sultan does go down though, and Foxtrot currently in the hands of Irvin, but there is another Fallschirmjäger Führer on the way there. The F4F did not drop its bombs, did not get hit by the Mistral, luckily for our player in blue, but did not drop its bombs here yet either, and might get killed by the ATMP LML and the Mistral if it does dive into that section of the map. 155mm howitzers aiming here for the building now. They seemingly blind firing, trying to find where the Fallschirmjäger Führer went. They don't really have a clue there, as the F4F does get a hit with the bombs on some paracommandos. Do get hit by one of the LML missiles as well, though, as one of the Javelin finds its marks. So that one will be a bit longer in the reload as well, as Kino about to go back to the +2 here, and with that, it likely will break the 1000 point mark relatively soon here.
Yeah, this is it's kind of encouraging for Irvin Wolfenstein to have completely cleared up the city, and we of course know that there's the first parascimitars are coming in completely late. They will be going or won't really be doing anything actually. They're just deploying in the middle of the road, and but they will be useful in kind of keeping the Pioneer Flams and the Pioneer Carl Gustavs in the city. If this infantry attack is allowed to go further here, like you said, the weakness here for MNAD does seem to be HE damage, especially when strong infantry squads like Gurkha rifles, Pathfinders, all of this are very vulnerable to the artillery fire with no counter battery in sight here and no existing HE mech force. Instead, just a lot of these ATGMs on the long ranges. The infantry attacks could maybe, like Kino, may not just be able to deal with them, because if they now start building up a force of parascimitars, there Irvin is going to have a lot of Leopard 1A5s and Marder Milans, which are superior to those scimitars. So the tech advantage might start speaking already, though.
Ooh, Leo 1A1's in a dangerous spot here in the south. A lot of TOW2s, a lot of Milan 2s around here. So yeah, this is exactly the kind of engagements that Kino is hoping for. The TOWs and Milan's currently not quite getting engagements they want yet, but another TOW2 missile here flying over. Recon situation here for Irvin is okay, but not great, as one of the Milan 2 units does go down. Yeah, 1A1's also relatively short range, so have to push quite close. They are worthwhile if they kill off one of the TOW2 Weasels, as those are 75 points as well, so the 1A1's not that much more expensive, but still, so many ATGMs here, so Foxtrot push is quite tough here. At the same time, Irvin has not really found a way to envelop Bravo, and the push in the north has completely failed. Maybe he should have invested the resources that went towards Charlie into a push into Bravo, because if he could have taken over Bravo completely by going through the northern logistic warehouse area here and envelop it from the northern section and then push the enemy completely out of the zone, then Foxtrot is easy to cut off as well if you get through Bravo, and then you can ignore Charlie for the rest of the game, because Bravo plus Foxtrot and spot towards Delta usually does get you where you need to be as the slower division. But that did not happen, and currently sitting at a pretty comfortable +2 and constantly taking up here. The artillery is hitting well. ATMP Milan going down, 1 Wiesel Toe, heavily damaged, but situation here is still not really great for Irvin, as that +2 is highly frustrating.
Yeah, the Panzer Grenadiers, not big enough squads to really hold the front line properly here versus these paras and para engineers. And fire support is not doesn't want to take too many risks, knowing how many ATGMs there are. But yeah, as I was gonna say, like despite all of this like potential here and the technological superiority, Irvin needs to move right now. Like something big plays need to be happening. And when you're trying to get big plays, you're more likely to make more mistakes. You're more likely to walk into traps or take a risk that just doesn't pay off. And with all of these ATGMs firing from a large, pretty wide, increasingly wide concave formation, and the Pathfinders with their 4 machine guns and American rifles and special forces recon traits is going to be very difficult to get rid of by infantry alone. So now maybe just sending the tanks, like rotating tanks through the town up to attack the Pathfinders, but that would just give a lot of way and maybe allow Kino to do infantry pushes further west.
Yeah, the Leo ones moving forward, a lot of ATGMs getting in the way. We see the Gurkha rifles now arriving. I'm surprised of the spot where they do arrive, but I mean, they're not that bad in this town. I just usually use them on the forest edge, either south of Foxtrot or between Alpha and Charlie. But a big squad with low 80s is something that any enemy vehicle still has to respect as well. The +2 does keep up taking up here for Kino, and yeah, Irvin needs to find a way to just kind of completely break the enemy here at this point.
Yeah, this is Irvin has a sizable force here of tanks to attack Foxtrot, with a Leopard 2 leader coming in and extra mortars and now an extra Feldhaubitze, but with barely any recon, no infantry recon certainly, only a single scimitar here, and that actually puts these tanks under threat. They have to be smoking off even though they haven't started the attack yet.
Yeah. We see Hot 2 missiles flying around as well. A lot of missiles missing here for Kino. Kino actually not that lucky with the ATGM RNG so far.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. A lot of really bad RNG here.
But it doesn't get a Leo 185 in the south Milan too. So that's worthwhile the trade against another one that gets RD'd right at that moment. Good kill there. And in the center, the forces here, the Pioneer Flamethrowers, that is finally an infantry unit that can break through here. But just as the Gurkha Rifles arrive, and you don't want to actively move into Gurkha Rifles with the 3 MGs and their triple vet, they just gonna melt you quite quickly. Scimitars here moving a bit badly into the Leo 185, so that's not great as the Pioneer Flamethrowers do arrive. Gurkha Rifles here, not in the right buildings, but keeping up the fight as well. There's no artillery here on the side of Kino, the 105 military artillery not being used, but for now the +2 is around, nearly 1,400 point reached, and this is really where you can start to feel more and more confident that you have a good chance of actually surviving and outlasting the enemy here, even if it doesn't quite go to the 2,000 point mark.
Yeah, the Gurkhas eating a lot of Hanfram patrones, but now all of them have run out.
Yeah, we see the Buccaneer coming in with its massive bombing run, 655 kilogram bombs from this really sexy looking British plane. Yeah,
It destroyed one of the Gurkha rifles as well, unfortunately. But Irvin once again is now Irvin has bought a lot of pioneers, and pioneers are the best close quarters infantry in this deck here. But in second Panzergrenadier, but a lot of pioneers have died already, and I feel like this just regular Jaegers and Panzergrenadier are gonna they're gonna have to come out in more numbers here, because as we can see, the Marders and the Leopards, they are not firing. They need the infantry front line. Now Jaeger Aufklärers are being bought now, but this is the attack is happening right now. Oh wait, no, there is a Fallschirm Jaeger Aufklärer, but even it is not in position right now, though with proper smokes both from the mortars and from the tanks. Not from that one though.
yeah, and the
They might
Weasel did immediately get one of the level 1 kills.
Yeah.
LSV here trying to get another one, does fail to do so. As the Leopard 185 does find the Weasel thanks to the Fallschirmjäger Aufklärer now. But Power Commandos, more Milan 2s and so on here on the side. And the Fallschirmjäger Führer is still in an okay spot here. We do see the Gepards moving forward, but they have to be careful. There is a Milan 2, though the smoke does prevent it from getting the kill there. So, yeah, Kino's still on a +1. He's up to 1,500 points. Only 16.5 minutes remaining here now. So less than half of the time here for Irvin to try to catch up. So Irvin has to, on average, tick better than his opponent did in the first half from here on out. And that enemy ticked up with a +2 for the most part. So you kind of need a +3 here eventually. And that means that you either have to get all the points in the middle, or you have to somehow get into Delta. And with how well fortified the northern point is, I feel like the point towards Delta is kind of the way to go. The tick will be stopped here, but going all the way there, it won't be easy here. I really wish when there was less forces around for Kino in the middle, because Kino overextended a bit, I wish Irvin would have pushed into that logistics warehouse area in the north and taken control over those buildings, because that usually is the way of how you break Bravo permanently, but that did not happen, and with that, it's gonna be really tough to push the enemy out of here now.
Yeah, this is the continuous reinforcement of first ATGMs, and then like Gurkha rifles and these parascimitars. They are coming in such great consistency that the damage that Irvin is inflicting isn't really being seen on the board as much, and especially with these airplanes, so many short range anti-air weapons. No dark fires here from what I can tell, but you don't even need the dark fires if you just get so many Mistrals. Mistrals are the best shoulder launched AA weapon, and the LMLs, of course, fire multiple missiles in quick succession, so they're also pretty decent, especially en masse. And yeah, now Jaeger Aufklärers are coming in with 2 more Panzergrenadier following up here. One of the Feldhaubitze is not firing, even though there's a lot of targets here it could be aiming at right now. A wounded Leopard 2 leader and a full health Leopard 2 leader, both behind the Bravo attack. 3 ATGMs up in the northeast angle, and one on one Milan 1 without any ammunition on the southeast angle, with a Weasel 2 and Unimog Para a little bit further behind. So it's not like there is an impossible number of these AA, especially with the Jaeger Aufklärer now moving up here and forcing a little bit movement, giving a lot of targets for the artillery and the Leopard 185s. But it is still just a few zero-vet Jaeger Aufklärers in actual real infantry fights. These guys are not going to be holding out for too long.
Yeah, Weasel Toe did go down. Forces are pushing forward forever now in the south finally. Another Weasel Toe will bite the dust, as Kino was not quite able to position them correctly. But time is running out here, and still every minute can buy a lot of stuff. Is now buying 105mm howitzers. Not quite sure if that's the best investment at the current moment, but they still will do fine. Buys the Mirage 5. EA here to try to just bomb the enemy back into the Stone Age is not getting the bombs off, as the enemy tornado did get the hit on it just before. But the situation here in general still is such that Kino only needs to hold out for 2-3 more minutes, and then even a +4 tick starts to become a problem and too little for Irvin. So the time here is playing for Kino. And yeah, the Milan's slowly pushing forward. The 105mm howitzers moving around here in the rear. Pathfinders sitting on a good spot. Leopard 1A1 fighting the dust as more and more of the forces here for Irvin arriving, but now even buying Fallschirmjägers. And I feel like the way to deal with this would be a mechanized force, and this is not a mechanized force. No IFVs here, no recon vehicles that can assist the tank blob to actually spot the ATGMs, and instead we see Gurkha rifles here getting into range and even stopping the +1 here again, as the Leopard 2A3 has to run away from them as they get a Leopard 1A5. A couple of martyrs dying at the same time, as there is just not enough concentration of force here. Irvin does not have a concentrated enough force that can just one-shot one ATGM unit after another, and is paying the consequences by one of his units after another being picked off.
Yeah, the upvetted artillery, light artillery coming in here for MNAT, you get a lot of those guys per card, even when you upvet them. And upvetting is famously can make the light artillery like incredibly fast aimers, or 12-second aim time, 25-second reload time, and they are now all opening counter battery fire against the Irvin's heavier artillery here. Just by saturation, it's probably going to be decently effective, though counter battery from Irvin should also just be superior to this if it can get out. Irvin is playing with zero vet artillery. One of them has actually gained a level and not supported by any leaders, so the heavy artillery is going to be not necessarily able to fire as fast in case Kino just goes and straight up retargets the next battery, which would be catastrophic for Irvin. The artillery is one of the only reliable damage dealers here in the front line.
Yeah, and it's only 10 minutes now remaining, so Irvin needs a +5, +6 from here on out to really turn this around, as all the artillery is flying towards his. It's pretty inaccurate on this range, but yeah, Irvin just now desperately trying to get out of there, and it's enough artillery here to hit unprotected howitzers and finish them off. First one routed and nearly dead already, and likely one of these hits will eventually get it. Yes, first one is down. Second one, not as damaged so far, but that still could be, as Irvin is trying desperately to run out of there. But yeah, as you pointed out, just taking it away, even without killing it, pressing it out that much, reducing its reload time and aim time by this much is already good enough. The rate of fire is absolutely in shambles, as now the next target is being found. The 105mm howitzer is just shooting everywhere. They are at 3 vet, so they only have 9.35 seconds aim time. They only have 16.8 second reload time, so they can really quickly find new targets. One of the reasons why, in my eyes, MNET is still one of the top dog divisions out there, as it just can so quickly annihilate light defensive forces with those artillery pieces, or just surprise an enemy that got a bit complacent with their own artillery and take them out, as all of these pieces are also relatively affordable.
Yeah, the Belgians now joining in with their para howitzers from, I believe this is a World War II era, maybe a Korean War era design. And yeah, I mean, this is just, there's so much stuff here. You just, if you have a recon frontline, you have pathfinders, just random units like Paramistral spotting the enemy. You just auto-fire. You just put them on auto-fire, and you know that the enemy is going to have to spend so many resources to start even start getting rid of these. Oh no! Meanwhile, Leopard 2A leader gets routed and and hurt by the Paramilan once here, kind of ending this current current attack of Irvin's up the hill. Though there are more tanks that could participate in this, but they haven't been ordered to move up there. But yeah, this is like getting rid of this artillery is possible. They're not even getting microed really, but that would require so many points and that from Irvin that it's just not happening.
Yeah, good hits here. Tornado IDS does get pushed back by the shots. One of the planes crashing into the ground, being shut down as the 105mm artillery pieces are aiming for the Ihawk here on the other side, trying to get the kill, and they will find that one as well. And yeah, Irvin just running out of steam, and this is how you play Mnet for the most part. As I said, I did not quite enjoy how little mechanized forces there were in the earlier parts of the game. But outside of that, this is the grindy game on this map that you want to play. Constantly swinging around the battlefield so that the enemy cannot concentrate on one individual combat, and just having a bit more cost efficiency on any given spot than the enemy, and it's just a bit more combined arms than any enemy on a given moment. So in the end here, a nice little success for our player in red here, Kino. Now just with a massive kill feed as Irvin desperately tries to push through somewhere, and is just kind of suiciding units in there. A lot of blue units, but most of them being Unimogs, dying here, trying to just rush into the middle. All the infantry of them now getting under artillery fire and just evaporating under the 105mm howitzer spam.
Yeah, it's like right from the start. I think you might be correct in that Irvin was expecting there to be a scimitar mech spam opener, and as that is like something that can the middle zone of Bravo is basically always contested by infantry, and it is the concentration of fire support and the scimitar that is required there, and the scimitars can be brought out quickly. They can be brought out right in the opener in numbers, only 45 points, and like that. So expecting that instead, getting quite standard and defensive, defensive like LSV raid opener followed up by just mass ATGMs. That was a really bad counter for Irvin. Like Irvin, even though Irvin managed to clean up a lot of the stuff happening in the early mid game, they just never gained the tempo that they lost by opening up so drastically. And like even as you said, this is not a perfect game from Kino. Like especially a lot of engagements in the middle there didn't really go that well, but the tempo, the mobility, the momentum advantage.
Gurkha even getting the kill now on the layer 283 in the north. Yeah. This is just it here. GG is called there. And yep, taking an Mnet victory, showing that that division actually might not need a buff after all. Maybe I did lie to you at the beginning there, guys. I'm sorry. And maybe Second Pentagon is actually as shit as Exos and Co. try to make people believe it is. I don't quite trust him just yet here, though. I think that was two OP divisions facing each other in their shenanigans. But hey, Kino taking the victory here, getting the one over Irvin, and Irvin now under pressure, as any loss in the group stage is getting you pretty close to elimination. So you really need that next game if you want to have a shot into the playoffs here as Irvin.
Yeah, just every moment of that game, Irvin was just looking for engagements to fight with the Leopards and the Martyrs. And when there was infantry recon on the ground, that's when most damage was being done by the mech. In my opinion, really, that's when the mech could actually start moving and start pressuring and imposing fire control and all that stuff. But in practice, like the starting position was so weak for mech blob gameplay, and Kino wasn't really doing too many mistakes that would have or overextensions that would have allowed for the Leopards to come in force to punish. The Leopards would have always had to take risks to start making big plays, and Mnad can just can sustain through a lot of stuff, as we can see there. No matter how many units got lost overall, Mnad would always be able to replace them. And that's not the case necessarily with tanks and airplanes.
Yeah, so GTVP here to Kino. Let's see if they can keep it up for game number 2, or if Irvin can have their revenge there. Quick break, guys, and then we're going to be back with game number 2. So here we return, game number 2, Irvin versus Kino, and Kino up 1-0. Gets us here into the second game on Stoneware with 35th BDV division against the French fast light tank slash mechanized division, the 6th Blinde with their AMX 10 cavalry coming around onto the battlefield, trying to intercept the Soviet airborne forces before they can dig in too deep on this battlefield. Really interesting matchup. Really interesting choice here for the pick of 6 versus 35th. I feel like actually this is not a bad matchup for 35th BDV.
Yeah, I mean, this is sixth was picked as a counter pick here, but I would agree that the AMX 10 RCs are like early on. If you look at this from the opener perspective, sixth is a very logical choice here. You get the Gazelle Celtics, which are just an amazing all-in-one way to deny your enemy both helicopters and punish them a lot for diving or using fighters early on. The Gazelle Canons can go and take a lot of map control. They can clean up units such as the Descent SPG-9 Jeeps that are going to be trying to get some kinds of angles just to, bully the enemy, annoy them, get them destroyed before they have before they've actually gotten out of the trucks. And you get the craps. You get the 10-man special forces crap squads, which even though nothing special, are still quite powerful. And of course, you get the forward deploying, very fast moving AMX-10 RC, even with the recon variants, which have mediocre stealth and very good optics and excellent range. And when you're dealing with an enemy that is going to be fighting your tanks basically always either with autocannons, which is going to be a bad engagement, or ATGMs, which can be microed around, smoked around, spotted, destroyed by a second AMX-10. One of them smokes, the second one moves in and gets a kill. On paper, a lot of stuff out there, but does Sixth have the sustainability? Does the micro work out for the AMX-10s overall? And what's the late game air situation? As I recall, the 35th can actually transition into a very powerful helicopter and air, air force later on in the game with pretty decent support, even mech support with the BMDs, and that's something that the Celtics and the AMX 10s might not be the optimal choices that
Yeah,
far into the game.
and I'm also really confused by the Gazelle Cannon opener here, knowing that the enemy has E-Class with BTR ZD Stretch AA pieces coming in there that both are good against those light hit point helicopters, plus the ZU-23s on the trucks, on the Gus 66 trucks here, that can deal with them pretty efficiently as well. So that Gazelle Cannon opener, I think, is a non-starter here. Their Gazelle tricks, I like them to prevent any enemy helicopters from dealing anything to you. But yeah, the first Orchidee helicopter already shot down here by an enemy AA. At least the SPG-9 in the south does go down, and one of the Gust trucks does get picked off in the north by a Legionnaire as well, though that one has to be careful. Yeah, gets killed off by the UAT's SPG-9. SPG-9 units in general better in this game now. So one of them getting a bit close here now to the crab. So the LRAC does wreck it. Yeah, both sides losing a good bit of units here already, and the Gazelle Cannons just getting bullied here. Gazelle Cannons getting killed as the Spetsnaz do keep pushing forward now. And yep, Spetsnaz will wipe the floor with the enemy infantry here as well. So AMX-10RC does go down to the Conquerors here as well. This went exactly as badly as I feared it would go. Like, the AMX-10s are already tough to micro in this matchup, because all cannons are basically unusable in this matchup in my eyes.
Yeah, like the Gazelle Cannons in the opener is just not the way to go. They are out there to punish the enemy for breaking in. They're out there to clean up, to help support like a 1v1 infantry fight or something like that. You don't just open them up and allow for the enemy to start getting kills right from the start. And now with the BMD2 autocannon support, with the fact that the Spetsnaz are amazing close quarters fighting infantry, and the fact that a lot of Wolf Irvin's forces are not really being microed here. Like the crabs are not moving into better positions. They're not trying to get a 2v1 or 3v1 engagement against the enemy, and they completely like the huge losses of the AMX-10s to the Conquerors missiles here have also just taken a lot of expensive units right from the board here. And those AMX-10s need to be played more aggressively. They are cavalry units, as you said. And no, another getting shot by a Metis this time. No, this is pretty tragic. Now there's just a free reign for all the fire support to deal with the crap.
Crabs getting eliminated here, and there are more AMX spies coming in. But they don't even have that much HE firepower, so they're not even that helpful as fire support, because they only have the 105mm gun. Is not as capable as a fire support, has some of the bigger 120 or 130mm guns, and they don't have a 50 cal. So, or even a slave like autocannon or 50 cal like the other French tanks like the MX-30s series, and all of that leads to some big issues here, dealing with all the Soviet infantry as well. Like, even if you get time on target, don't do all that much there. Don't get any special forces that are as good in CQC as the Spetsnaz on the other side. So, yeah, 35th, in my eyes, still not a good division. It has gotten better with some of the latest patches, just because the meta is swinging a bit more into its favor again, and some of its light artillery is now more impactful than it had been in the past, and so on. But in general, this is a really good matchup for them. Like, this is one of the few matchups where I would be happy being the 35th player instead of the player on the other side. And another couple of units here dying on both sides. The next AMX-10 going down in the north to ATGM. Yeah, I feel like 6, also not a good division for our skill level. It is a really tough division to play. And yeah, picking it as the counter pick here, a weird choice for sure.
Yeah, especially on this map where you can kind of arguably even play armored divisions pretty well, as long as you just don't against like infantry aggro here. As long as you just play carefully and don't engage the enemy in these fights that the enemy absolutely wants to take. Like, the reinforcement road is closed by the Conquerors already. One of the infantry units was removed that way. The Skretchets and the BMD2s are absolutely compensating for the fact that the Desantniki are kind of mediocre in infantry fights. It doesn't matter. The Desantniki are here to just find the enemy, trigger them to open fire, and then the BMDs come and do all the tasks. Just the AMX-10s were in the wrong place. I don't think they shouldn't have been in the town. They're out there in the town deployed to kill enemy like infantry trucks that are on the roads, but then they were not moved from that position. They were not saved. They were kept there, they were spotted, and then they were engaged by deployed ATGMs on relatively close ranges, whereas they should have been trying to get max range engagements where the ATGMs wouldn't be as dangerous.
Yeah. More infantry here pushing forward. BRDM did get killed off by an AMX-10 RC in the south, but the infantry of Irvin here soon to be pushed out, and Kino already on a +1. So the Legionnaires not really going to change much here. And a Mi-24V rocket already on the hunt. Yeah, that's another reason why this is not a great matchup. Enemy has units that can hunt down any breakthrough MX-10 quite easily. Both the ATGMs and the guns on the Mi-24V can deal with the MX quickly. So Mirage 2000 trying to come for the rescue is successful in that regard, but more helicopters will come, and next time around there will be MiG-29s to intercept your Mirage 2000 trying to achieve this. BMD2 does get killed off here. Like, it's not like you don't have tools here at all as 6, but this is really not the matchup. There's just too many light ATGM. Even the Medis is like kind of annoying. A unit that 2 divisions have access to, like those mid-range ATGMs, because even those do one-shot kill you here.
Yeah, this AMX-10 Spahi in long ranges in a defensive location could just easily smoke itself off and kill 2 of the BMDs, and suddenly like Kino's force is now put into at least a slight disadvantage because the BMDs have to be hiding in there. But the infantry force descending in Metis, OP Spetsnaz and regular Spetsnaz, perfect combination, long range, short range AT defenses, and the infantry assault potential. You would need so many Legionnaire Sappers or such a bad positioning mistake from Kino's side that I feel like those units are going to be just taking ground kind of unimpeded.
Yeah, there's a Nikki's
And now
here.
that's a place for the Gazelle Canons. A single Gazelle Canon here to just make sure that they stay in the forest and buy some time, get some more units up. But yeah.
Yeah, but now it's just a bit too late here. Kino's forces will push through, will get the better of the situation. There's a Nikki BMD under fire by the Spahis and the Legionnaires. The CV does get killed off, and AMX-10 RC Legion does bite the dust there as well. And with that, the front line is corrupting. MiG-29M cluster bomber moving in to finish off the Legion, and Mirage 2000 won't arrive in time to intercept. Might be in time to at least kill it off, but there's a MiG-29 behind it as well. And the French planes have the issue of having already pretty bad missiles and then also not having all that many of those. So firing on one plane means that you for sure not being able to shoot down the next one. As the MiG-29 does get pushed back though, but in the end here, no frontline units left for Irvin. Irvin forced to tap out. 6 Blinde. On paper, a really strong division. In this matchup, not so much, and it is a really, really intense to play division. So Kino here getting away with the 2-0 victory. Really good usage there of the 35th. And yeah, does finish off the game with that. Well played.
Yeah, sixth punishes you so much for being inactive and not microing, and it can, like, it opens up so strong, but it can fall down at any moment. And yeah, I feel like just like a Leopard 1 division would have probably been a better choice, though you would have the same relative firepower. And if you're not going to be doing too much of this like opener raiding because you're going against an airborne division, why not just get a Leopard 1 division or T-55 division with a little bit stronger of an infantry tab, or like a little bit more consistent of an infantry tab, so you don't have to rely on these like 10-11 man special squads instead, and you can get a lot of like sustainability support equipment out there. But alas, that is not the task of the offensive 6E. Protos, do you know why the French Foreign Legion was created?
To beat the Germans, likely.
I know it's because before the invention of national armies, all European monarchs would basically use their foreign troops to deal with their own populations. So during the French Revolution, a lot of the soldiers being sent in Paris were German speaking on purpose, because the French speaking had the French national spirit. But then, the French invent nationalism and the national army, and then they go power creep against all of Europe for like a certain amount of time, and then Napoleon dies, and then you get the new monarchy. And suddenly everybody has these national armies, and these national armies consists of people, and the people might disagree with their rulers, so they figured that they would bring back this element of foreigners who will hold no loyalty to their fellow man in case something needs to be done about those fellow men.
Yeah, and also to beat the Germans. But
Yeah,
yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, a good small little history lesson here to finish off the day. As yeah, my circulatory system demands me to go outside and to go for a jog here at the end of the day. So we gonna end it here for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I might be back with another stream tomorrow afternoon. I'm not quite sure what yet to do there just yet, but yeah. And then I will be busy over the weekend, and I will be back next week. I'm not quite sure if there's anything going on your end there, stream wise. Lloyd, let the people know.
Depending on how long I have to work tomorrow, depending on concerns that I don't know yet, I might or might not stream tomorrow afternoon. If I get off early, I will most certainly do that. And if I have to stay in late, then I might not. But Thursdays and Tuesdays, I'm kind of figuring out that they are the most natural stream days for me.
Okay, yeah. That's it, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a good day. And also, don't forget to sign up for Warner League Season 7. I nearly forgot that. League Season 7 is coming around at the end of August. So get your sign up there. We're already more than halfway there with the sign up numbers. So if you don't want to lose your spot, get it in now. And with that said, thanks for watching, everybody, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.